She adopted her sister's baby. Then the Korean Mafia boss came to get him. On October 13th, 2021, in the quiet town of Jungpyeong, an exhausted foreign woman spent the night caring for a baby who was not her biological child, yet depended on her completely. Everything seemed predictable, until an unexpected man appeared claiming direct family ties to the child, shifting the course of their lives in a matter of minutes. From that moment on, nothing remained simple for any of them. If this story draws you in, follow the channel, like the video and comment where you are watching from. The winter wind cuts through the narrow streets of Jungpyeong like a knife through silk. Inside a modest third-floor apartment, Kasima Hart stands by the window, watching snowflakes dance under the amber glow of streetlights. Her reflection stares back at her, a young black woman with exhausted eyes and shoulders that carry the weight of two worlds. Behind her, in a second-hand crib decorated with hand-sewn blankets, baby Milo sleeps with tiny fists curled near his cheeks, completely unaware that tomorrow will decide his entire future. Kasima turns away from the window and kneels beside the crib. Her fingers trace the edge of the blanket her sister had started embroidering but never finished. The needle is still tucked into the fabric, frozen mid-stitch, exactly where it was left 6 months ago. 6 months since the phone call that shattered everything. 6 months since she became the only family this child has left. "We're almost there, little one," she whispers in English, her voice cracking despite her efforts to sound strong. "Tomorrow the judge signs the papers. Tomorrow you become mine. Officially." She picks up the manila envelope from the coffee table, the one containing the final adoption documents. Every form has been filled out in triplicate. Every requirement met. Every interview passed. The social worker had smiled last week and said, "You're doing beautifully, Miss Hart. That baby is lucky to have you." Lucky. The word feels hollow now. Kasima thinks about her sister. Vibrant, reckless, impossibly kind. The sister who taught English at a language academy in Seoul and fell in love with a man she never spoke about in detail. The sister who called one rainy night, voice trembling, saying, "Kasima, if anything ever happens to me, promise you'll take care of my baby. Promise me." 3 weeks later, she was gone. An accident, they said. Quick, painless, final. Kasima never met Milo's father, never saw a photo, never heard his voice. Her sister had kept that part of her life locked away, and now all that remains is this child with almond-shaped eyes and a smile that breaks Kasima's heart every single day. She slides the envelope into her work bag and glances at the clock. 4:30 in the morning. In 3 hours, she needs to be at Daehwa International Academy, where parents pay astronomical fees for their children to learn perfect English from native speakers. Where she, an outsider, a foreigner, a black woman in a sea of sameness, has worked tirelessly to prove she belongs. Sleep doesn't come. It never does anymore. The courthouse in Cheongju feels colder inside than outside. Kasima arrives early, clutching Milo against her chest in a baby carrier. He gurgles softly, reaching for the jade pendant she wears, a gift from her sister. The waiting area is nearly empty, except for a young couple adopting a daughter and an older man reading a newspaper. Her lawyer, Mr. Kang, meets her by the entrance. He's a kind man in his 50s with wire-rimmed glasses and a reassuring smile. "Everything is in order," he tells her in careful English. "This is just a formality. The judge will review, you'll answer a few questions, and then you can go home as Milo's legal mother." Kasima nods, but her throat feels tight. She wants to believe him. She needs to believe him. They enter the courtroom. It's smaller than she expected. Wood-paneled walls, a single row of benches, fluorescent lights that hum too loudly. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s, sits behind an elevated desk, reviewing papers with meticulous attention. "Please be seated," the judge says in Korean. Mr. Kang translates softly. Kasima sits, adjusting Milo in her arms. He's awake now, staring at the ceiling with wide, curious eyes. She kisses his forehead and tries to steady her breathing. The judge begins asking routine questions. "How long have you cared for the child? What is your employment status? Do you have family support?" Kasima answers each one clearly, her voice gaining confidence with every response. And then the door opens. The sound is subtle, just a gentle click, but it slices through the room like thunder. Every head turns. A man enters, tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably costs more than Kasima's yearly rent. His hair is styled with precision, his posture radiates authority, and when he walks, even the air seems to move out of his way. He's Korean, maybe in his early 30s, with a face that could sell luxury watches or break hearts with equal ease. But it's his eyes that make Casima's stomach drop. They're sharp, calculating, and they're locked directly on Milo. The judge straightens in her seat. Mr. Kang goes pale. Someone in the back row inhales sharply. The man bows slightly to the judge, a gesture of respect that somehow feels more like a formality than genuine deference, and speaks in flawless Korean. His voice is smooth, controlled, and terrifyingly calm. Mr. Kang leans toward Casima and whispers, his hand trembling slightly. "That's Lucian Hanji-sung." "Who?" Casima breathes. Before Mr. Kang can answer, the man, Lucian, turns toward her. For a moment, their eyes meet. She sees something flicker there. Recognition? Regret? She can't tell. But it makes her hold Milo tighter. "Your Honor," Lucian says, switching to English so smooth it could belong to a diplomat. "I apologize for the interruption, but I am here on a matter of significant legal importance regarding the child in question." Casima's heart stops. "This is highly irregular," the judge says, frowning. Lucian reaches into his briefcase and produces a document. He hands it to the bailiff, who delivers it to the judge. The room goes silent except for the sound of pages turning. The judge's expression shifts. Surprise, concern, confusion. "What is this?" Casima whispers to Mr. Kang, panic rising in her chest. "What's happening?" Mr. Kang is reading over the judge's shoulder, and his face has gone completely white. The judge looks up. "Miss Hart, were you aware that the child's late father designated a contingency co-guardian in the event of his passing?" Casima's world tilts. "No, that's not possible. I'm his only family. I am Milo's paternal uncle," Lucian says, his voice cutting through her protest like a blade. "And according to this legally binding document, signed by his father 3 weeks before the incident, I have been named co-guardian of contingency. The words don't make sense. They can't make sense. I've never heard of you," Casima says, her voice shaking. "My sister never mentioned you, never mentioned any family. This has to be a mistake." "I assure you it is not," Lucian replies. His tone is still calm, but there's something underneath it now, something that sounds almost like sadness. "I understand this is unexpected, but the documentation is valid." The judge examines the papers again, then looks at Casima with something that might be pity. "Miss Hart, until this matter is resolved, I am placing the child under temporary shared guardianship. You and Mr. Han will both retain legal responsibilities until a full hearing can be scheduled." "No," Casima whispers. "No, you can't do this. I've done everything right. But the gavel falls, and just like that, the life she thought she was building shatters into pieces she doesn't know how to put back together." Lucian walks toward her slowly. He stops a few feet away and looks down at Milo, who has started to fuss. And then, something impossible happens. Milo reaches toward him. The baby's tiny hand stretches out, fingers grasping at the air, and a sound escapes his throat. A soft, happy sound, as if he recognizes the stranger, as if he knows him. Casima pulls Milo back instinctively, tears burning behind her eyes. Lucian doesn't move closer, but he speaks, and his voice is quieter now, almost gentle. "I know you have questions. I know this doesn't make sense, but I promise you, I am not here to take him away." "Then why are you here?" Casima demands, her voice breaking. Lucian's jaw tightens. He glances at the judge, then back at her. "Because there are people who would." And with that single sentence, the ground beneath Casima Hart disappears entirely. The ride back to Seoul feels like drowning in slow motion. Casima sits in the back of a taxi, Milo strapped into his car seat beside her, while the city lights blur past the window like tears she refuses to shed. Her hands won't stop trembling. Every time she closes her eyes, she sees Lucian's face, that calm, controlled expression that revealed nothing and everything at once. Co-guardianship. The word tastes like metal in her mouth. Mr. Kang had tried to reassure her before she left the courthouse. "This is temporary," he'd said, adjusting his glasses nervously. "Just until we can present a full case. You've been Milo's primary caretaker for 6 months. No judge will take that away from you." But his voice had wavered when he said it. And Casima knows what wavering means in a world where power speaks louder than love. She looks down at Milo, who has finally fallen asleep, his cherubic face peaceful against the cream-colored fabric of his seat. He has no idea his entire world just shifted beneath him. No idea that a stranger walked into a courtroom and claimed him with a single piece of paper. Her sister's voice echoes in her mind. "Promise me you'll take care of my baby." "I'm trying," Cosima whispers into the silence. "I'm trying so hard." The next morning arrives with the weight of inevitability. Cosima wakes to 3 missed calls from an unknown number and a text message that makes her blood run cold. "Miss Hart, this is Lucian Hahn's assistant. Mr. Hahn will be visiting at 10 a.m. to discuss care arrangements for Milo. Please confirm receipt of this message." She stares at the screen until the words blur. Visiting. As if her home, the tiny apartment she's worked herself to exhaustion to afford, is now some kind of shared space he has access to whenever he pleases. She types back, "This is my home. He cannot just show up." The response comes within seconds. "Per the court order, Mr. Hahn has legal rights to monitor Milo's welfare. We will see you at 10 a.m. Cosima wants to throw her phone across the room. Instead, she feeds Milo, changes his diaper with shaking hands, and tries to make her apartment look less like the hurricane of exhaustion it actually is. She picks up scattered toys, folds blankets, wipes down surfaces, anything to feel like she has even a shred of control. At exactly 10 o'clock, there's a knock at the door. She takes a breath, steadies herself, and opens it. Lucian stands in the hallway, somehow looking even more intimidating in casual clothes. A black turtleneck and tailored slacks that probably cost more than her monthly salary. Behind him stands a woman in her 40s, carrying a leather portfolio and wearing an expression of professional detachment. "Miss Hart," Lucian says with a slight bow, "thank you for allowing us into your home." "I didn't have a choice," Cosima replies, her voice sharper than she intended. Something flickers across his face. Acknowledgement, maybe, but he doesn't argue. "This is Mrs. Choi, a family coordinator. She'll be helping us establish a care schedule that works for both parties." Both parties. As if Milo is a business arrangement. As if love can be divided into spreadsheets and time slots. Cosima steps aside, letting them enter. Milo is in his playpen, batting at a stuffed rabbit. The moment Lucian walks in, the baby's eyes lock onto him. And again, that impossible thing happens. Milo smiles, reaches out, makes that happy gurgling sound. Cosima's heart clenches so tightly she can barely breathe. Lucian kneels beside the playpen, and for the first time, his carefully controlled expression softens. "Hello, little one," he murmurs in Korean. His voice carries a tenderness that catches Cosima completely off guard. Mrs. Choi opens her portfolio and begins asking questions with clinical efficiency. What is Milo's feeding schedule? Does he have any allergies? What pediatrician does he see? What daycare arrangements have been made? Cosima answers each question, but she feels herself being cataloged, assessed, reduced to data points on a page. "And your work schedule?" Mrs. Choi asks, pen poised. "I teach at Daehwa International Academy," Cosima says. "Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Sometimes later if there are parent meetings." Mrs. Choi makes a note. "Mr. Hahn has requested to be informed of all major decisions regarding Milo's welfare. Medical appointments, educational choices, dietary changes. He will also be conducting weekly visits to ensure consistency in care." "Weekly?" Cosima's voice rises despite herself. "That's not monitoring. That's surveillance." Lucian looks up from where he's still crouched beside Milo. "I'm not your enemy, Miss Hart. Then why does it feel like you're trying to prove I'm unfit?" The room goes silent. Mrs. Choi stops writing. Lucian stands slowly, and when he speaks, his voice is quieter. "Because there are people who will use any weakness to take him away, and I need to make sure there are no weaknesses." "Who?" Cosima demands. "Who are these people you keep mentioning?" But Lucian just shakes his head. "That's not a conversation for today." After they leave, Cosima sits on the floor of her apartment, holding Milo close, and lets herself cry for the first time since the courthouse. She cries for her sister, for the life she thought she was building, for the terrible, creeping realization that she's not fighting this battle alone anymore, and she's not sure if that makes her safer or more trapped. That evening, she receives a message from the school's principal. "We need to discuss a sensitive matter regarding your personal situation. Please come to my office tomorrow before classes begin." And later, as she's putting Milo to bed, she finds something slipped under her apartment door. A plain white envelope with no return address. Inside, A single piece of paper with typed words. You think you know what's best for him, but you don't even know what your sister was hiding. Casima's hands shake as she reads it again and again. Down in the parking lot, a black sedan sits with its engine idling. The driver watches her window with mechanical patience, lifts a camera, and takes 3 photos before driving away into the Seoul night. The morning sun filters through the principal's office windows, casting long shadows across the mahogany desk. Principal Kim sits with her hands folded, wearing an expression Kasima has seen before, the careful neutrality of someone about to deliver bad news wrapped in diplomatic language. Miss Hart, thank you for coming early. She begins in English, though her Korean accent thickens with discomfort. I want to be direct with you, because I respect the work you've done here. Kasima's grip tightens on her bag. Milo is at a neighbor's apartment for the next hour. A kind elderly woman named Mrs. Park, who sometimes watches him when Kasima has early obligations. She'd left him reluctantly, kissing his forehead 3 times, as if storing up the memory of his baby powder scent. Several parents have expressed concerns, Principal Kim continues, choosing each word like stepping stones across a river, about your current family situation. My family situation? Kasima repeats, her voice carefully controlled despite the anger building in her chest. They've heard about the court proceedings, about the shared guardianship arrangement. Principal Kim pulls out a folder, too thin to contain anything good. One parent submitted this yesterday. She slides a printed email across the desk. Kasima reads it, and each word feels like a small violence. We pay premium tuition for stability and professionalism. Having a teacher involved in complicated legal matters raises questions about judgment and focus. Perhaps the school should reconsider her position until her personal affairs are resolved. The email is signed by Mrs. Yoon, mother of Brian, a 7-year-old in Kasima's advanced English class. The same woman who'd smiled at her during last month's parent-teacher conference and praised her wonderful energy. This is one email, Kasima says, fighting to keep her voice steady. From one parent. Principal Kim's silence says everything. It's not just one email. It's never just one email. I need you to be prudent, the principal finally says. Keep your personal life separate from school. Don't give anyone ammunition. We value you, Miss Hart. But we also have to consider the concerns of our community. Kasima wants to scream, wants to ask if they'd be having this conversation if she looked different, if her situation fit more neatly into their expectations. But she knows the answer. She's always known the answer. I understand, she says instead, standing. May I go prepare for class? Principal Kim nods, relief washing over her face. Of course. And Kasima? Please be careful. The warning echoes in Kasima's mind throughout the morning. Be careful. Be prudent. Be smaller, quieter, less complicated. She teaches her classes on autopilot, her smile painted on, her voice bright and encouraging while her thoughts spiral elsewhere. During lunch break, she finds another note tucked into her desk drawer. This one is handwritten on expensive cream-colored paper. Ask Lucian why he was in Jungpyeong the week before your sister passed. Ask him what he was really doing there. Her blood turns to ice. She looks around the empty classroom, but there's no one. The hallway outside is filled with the distant sounds of children laughing. But in here, the silence feels predatory. She pulls out her phone and calls the number Lucian's assistant provided. It rings 4 times before he answers. Miss Hart. His voice is crisp, professional. She can hear traffic in the background, the muffled sounds of the city. Were you having me followed? She demands, abandoning any pretense of civility. A pause. Then, no. Someone's been watching me, taking photos, and now I'm getting notes with information that shouldn't exist. Her voice cracks slightly. If it's not you, then who? Another pause. Longer this time. When Lucian speaks again, his tone has shifted. Less controlled, more urgent. Where are you right now? At school. Why? Stay there. Don't go home until I arrive. It's not a request. You don't get to give me orders. Kasima. The use of her first name stops her cold. I know you don't trust me. I understand why. But if someone is leaving you notes about Jungpyeong, then they know things they shouldn't. And that means you're in more danger than you realize. The call ends before she can respond. 45 minutes later, Lucian's black sedan pulls up to the school's front entrance. Kasima watches from her classroom window as he steps out, scanning the area with the practiced awareness of someone who's learned to always watch his surroundings. When he enters her classroom, She notices something she'd missed before, the way his eyes constantly move, cataloging exits, assessing threats. This isn't just caution, it's survival instinct. "Show me the notes," he says without preamble. She hands him both, the one from her apartment and the one from her desk. He reads them with an expression that grows darker with each word. "This is why I needed the co-guardianship," he says quietly. "Not to take Milo from you, to protect him, to protect both of you." "From who?" Cosima presses. "You keep saying there's danger, but you won't tell me what it actually is." Lucian looks at her then, really looks at her, and for the first time she sees past the controlled facade to something raw underneath. Fear. Genuine, bone-deep fear. "My family has complicated history," he begins carefully. "Business dealings that weren't always conducted through proper channels. My brother, Milo's father, tried to get out. He wanted a clean life, a normal life. Your sister was helping him do that." "What kind of business?" But even as she asks, Cosima feels the shape of the answer forming in her mind. "The kind that doesn't let people leave easily," Lucian says. "The kind that sees a child as leverage. The classroom suddenly feels too small, the walls pressing in." Cosima thinks about Milo's innocent face, his tiny fingers reaching for her. His complete trust in a world he doesn't yet understand is dangerous. "The Seong family," Lucian continues. "They were my brother's rivals. They blamed him for certain territorial losses. When he died, they saw an opportunity. A child with no clear protection, raised by someone they could easily intimidate. So they're targeting me to get to Milo?" Cosima's voice is barely a whisper. "They're testing you, seeing if you'll break under pressure. If you do, they'll petition for custody through legitimate channels, claiming you're unstable." He pulls something from his pocket, a small device, sleek and black. "This is a tracker. Keep it with you. If anything happens—" "I don't want your tracker," Cosima interrupts. "I want the truth. All of it." Before Lucian can respond, her phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "Check your car." They rush to the parking lot together. Cosima's small blue sedan sits exactly where she left it this morning, but tucked under the windshield wiper is something that makes her stomach drop. A photograph. It's her sister, alive, standing outside a building Cosima doesn't recognize, talking to a man whose face is turned away from the camera. The date stamp in the corner reads 3 days before the incident that took her life. And on the back, written in the same handwriting as the notes, she knew what was coming. Why didn't she run? The photograph sits on Cosima's kitchen table like a bomb waiting to detonate. She's been staring at it for 20 minutes, tracing the outline of her sister's face with her eyes, trying to reconcile the woman in the image with the woman she thought she knew. Her sister looks nervous in the photo, shoulders slightly hunched, one hand clutching her purse strap too tightly. The body language of someone who knows they're being watched. Lucian stands by the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking in rapid Korean. His voice is low, urgent, punctuated by long silences that feel heavier than words. Milo sits in his playpen, oblivious to the tension saturating the room, happily gnawing on a teething ring. When Lucian finally ends the call, his expression is grim. "The building in that photo," he says. "It's in Gangnam, an office that used to belong to one of my brother's legal consultants, someone who helped people disappear when they needed to." Cosima's throat tightens. Disappear from what? From situations exactly like this one. Lucian moves to the table, studying the photograph with the intensity of someone reading a crime scene. "Your sister wasn't just helping my brother leave the family business. She was planning her own exit strategy. They were going to take Milo and start over somewhere no one could find them." "Then what happened?" Cosima demands, her voice breaking. "Why didn't they run? Why is my sister dead and your brother dead and this baby—" She gestures toward Milo, tears burning her eyes. "Why is he here with me instead of safe somewhere with his parents?" Lucian's jaw clenches. "Because someone found out, and they made sure running was no longer an option." The words hang in the air like smoke. Cosima wants to ask more, needs to ask more, but her phone buzzes violently against the table. It's a number she doesn't recognize, but the area code is local. She answers on speaker. "Miss Hart?" A woman's voice, professional and cold. "This is Attorney Jung from the Seoul Family Court. I'm calling to inform you that a formal petition has been filed challenging your fitness as Milo's guardian." Cosima's world tilts. "What? By who?" The petition was submitted by representatives of the Seong family, citing concerns about your emotional stability and living situation. There will be a preliminary hearing next Tuesday at 9 a.m. Your presence is mandatory. The call ends before Cosima can respond. She looks at Lucian, panic rising in her chest like floodwater. They can't do this. I've done everything right. They don't care about right. Lucian interrupts, his voice hard. They care about pressure points. They're attacking you because you're the easier target. Easier than what? Than me. He runs a hand through his hair, and for the first time since she met him, he looks genuinely frustrated. If they went after me directly, it would start a conflict that could expose things neither family wants exposed. But you're an outsider, a foreign woman with no connections, no protection, raising a child with ties to families you don't understand. They think they can break you. Cosima stands abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. I won't let them take him. I don't care who they are or what kind of power they have. Milo is mine. Then you need to stop fighting this alone, Lucian says. Let me help you. Really help you. Before she can answer, there's a sharp knock at the door. 3 precise raps that somehow sound official, threatening. Cosima's heart hammers as she opens it to find a courier holding a manila envelope. Delivery for Cosima Hart, he says in Korean, then switches to broken English when he sees her face. Sign, please. She signs with shaking hands. The moment the door closes, she tears open the envelope. Inside are printed screenshots, images from her social media, her school's website, even photos from parent-teacher conferences. Each one has been marked with red circles and handwritten notes in Korean. Lucian takes the pages from her trembling hands, and his face goes pale. These are doctored, he says quietly. They've manipulated the images to make it look like you were behaving inappropriately at school events. What? Cosima grabs the papers back. In one photo, her hand appears to be on a parent's shoulder in a way that looks uncomfortably intimate, though she remembers the actual moment. She'd been gesturing while explaining a student's progress. In another, her expression has been edited to look angry, confrontational, during what had actually been a pleasant conversation. They're building a case, Lucian says, piece by piece, making you look unstable, unprofessional, unfit. Cosima sinks onto the couch, the papers scattered around her like evidence of her own destruction. How do I fight this? I can't afford lawyers who can compete with whatever they have. I can't. Her phone rings again. This time it's Principal Kim. Miss Hart, I'm very sorry to do this over the phone. The principal begins, and Cosima already knows what's coming. But several parents have reached out expressing serious concerns. The school board has decided it would be best if you took a temporary leave of absence. Paid, of course. Just until your personal matters are resolved. You're suspending me. Cosima's voice is hollow. It's not a suspension. It's a precautionary measure. For everyone's benefit. The call ends. Cosima sits in the silence of her apartment, surrounded by fabricated evidence of her own inadequacy, while her job, her stability, her proof that she can provide for Milo, slips through her fingers. Lucian crouches in front of her, forcing her to meet his eyes. Listen to me carefully. Tomorrow morning, I'm taking you to meet someone. Someone who knew your sister. Someone who might have answers about what really happened. Who? Cosima whispers. A woman named Han Mira. She used to work for my family, but she walked away years ago when things got too complicated. If anyone knows what your sister and my brother were planning, it's her. That evening, after Lucian leaves with promises to pick her up at dawn, Cosima finds one more note slipped under her door. This one is different. Written on paper so thin it's almost translucent. The handwriting shaky. They're watching. They're always watching. The lawyer, the photos, the job. It's all part of the plan. But there's something they don't know yet. Something hidden in Jungpyeong. Find it before they do. Cosima holds the note up to the light and sees a watermark she hadn't noticed before. The faint outline of a lotus flower. The same symbol her sister used to doodle in the margins of her journals. Her sister's handwriting. The note is old, written before she died. Somehow delivered now, at exactly the moment Cosima needed to see it. Outside her window, a black sedan parks across the street. The driver doesn't get out, just watches, waiting. The drive to Jungpyeong takes 3 hours through countryside that gradually sheds the concrete density of Seoul for rolling hills and traditional hanok houses. with curved tile roofs. Cosima sits in the passenger seat of Lucian's sedan, Milo strapped safely in the back, while questions she's too afraid to ask out loud circle endlessly in her mind. The note with her sister's handwriting is folded in her pocket, pressed against her hip like a talisman. She's touched it 17 times since they left the city, each time needing to confirm it's real, that she didn't imagine the impossible. A message from the dead, delivered by hands she'll never identify. Mira lives quietly now, Lucian says, breaking the silence that stretched between them for the past hour. She runs a small tea house near the old market. She won't talk if she feels threatened, so let me do the introductions. Why did she leave your family? Cosima asks, watching the landscape blur past her window. Lucian's hands tighten on the steering wheel, because she saw what staying would cost her, and she was brave enough to pay the price of leaving instead. They arrived just after noon. Jungpyeong is smaller than Cosima expected, a town that seems suspended between past and present, where modern convenience stores sit beside shops that have been family-owned for generations. The tea house is tucked down a narrow alley lined with potted chrysanthemums, their white and yellow blooms bright against weathered brick walls. The interior smells of jasmine and aged wood. Traditional floor cushions surround low tables, and in the corner, a woman in her 50s arranges lotus-shaped cookies on a ceramic plate. She looks up when they enter, and something flickers across her face when she sees Lucian. Recognition followed immediately by wariness. Han Ji-sung, she says in Korean, then switches to English when she notices Cosima. I wondered when you would come. Her name is Han Mira, though she introduces herself simply as Mira, dropping the family name like unwanted luggage. She has kind eyes that have seen too much, and hands that move with the careful precision of someone who's learned to control everything they can because so much has been beyond their control. They sit. Mira pours tea into 3 cups, green tea so delicate it looks like liquid jade. Milo fusses slightly, and Mira's expression softens. He has his father's eyes, she murmurs. Same shape, same depth. You knew him? Cosima asks, leaning forward. I knew them both, Mira replies. Your sister and Han Ji-sung's brother. They used to come here, to this tea house, when they were planning their escape. They thought Jungpyeong was far enough from Seoul that no one would notice 2 people having quiet conversations over tea. Cosima's throat constricts. What were they planning exactly? Mira takes a slow sip of her tea, choosing her words with visible care. Ji-sung's brother wanted out of the family business. Not just out, completely severed. New identities, new country, new life. Your sister was helping him arrange it because she worked at a language academy and had connections to visa programs, international schools. She knew how to make people disappear into legitimate paperwork. But something went wrong, Lucian says quietly. Mira nods. The Seong family found out. They saw it as betrayal. Han family secrets potentially being exposed in a foreign country. Leverage walking out the door. They couldn't allow it. She pauses, setting down her cup with trembling hands. The accident that took them both. It was very convenient timing. The words hit Cosima like physical blows. You're saying they were... She can't finish the sentence, can't shape her mouth around the terrible word. I'm saying that coincidences are rare in this world, Mira replies gently, and that your sister knew she was in danger. She came to see me 2 days before it happened. She was terrified but determined. She gave me something, told me to keep it safe until someone came looking. Mira stands and disappears into a back room. Cosima's heart pounds so loudly she's certain everyone can hear it. Lucian reaches across the table, and, in a gesture that surprises them both, places his hand briefly over hers. Not controlling, not possessive, just there. Mira returns carrying a small notebook bound in blue cloth, the edges worn soft with handling. She sets it on the table between them like an offering at an altar. She said, if anything happened to her, someone would eventually ask the right questions. She said when they did, I should give them this. Mira's eyes meet Cosima's. I think that someone is you. Cosima picks up the notebook with shaking hands. The first page contains her sister's handwriting, the same looping script she'd recognize anywhere, the same she saw on the translucent note. If you're reading this, I'm probably gone. I'm so sorry, Cosima. I'm so sorry for everything I couldn't tell you, but I need you to know the truth about what we were trying to do, and why it mattered enough to risk everything. Tears blur the words. Cosima blinks them back, tries to keep reading. But the next pages are filled with dates, names, locations. A map of her sister's final weeks that reveals a life Kasima never glimpsed, struggles she never knew existed. There's more, Mira says softly. She mentioned that if things went wrong, something important would be hidden here in Jungpyeong. She wouldn't tell me what or where, said it was safer if I didn't know, but she said you would understand the clues if you looked carefully enough. Lucian leans forward. What kind of thing? Documents, maybe. Evidence. Something this Young family would very much want to destroy. Mira's expression grows grave, and something that could protect Milo if it fell into the right hands. Before Kasima can respond, Lucian's phone buzzes. He glances at the screen, and his face goes completely white. What? Kasima demands. What is it? He turns the phone toward her. It's a message from his assistant, but attached is a photo that makes Kasima's blood turn to ice. It's her apartment building, photographed from across the street, and in the image, 2 men in dark suits are entering through the main door. The timestamp reads 15 minutes ago. We need to go, Lucian says, standing abruptly. Now. But as he speaks, his phone rings. He answers, listens for 5 seconds, and closes his eyes as if in pain. They're already inside your apartment, he says quietly. They had a warrant. They're searching everything. Kasima feels the world tilt beneath her. Mrs. Park, she whispers. The neighbor watching Milo's things. We'll handle it, Lucian promises. But first we need to figure out what your sister hid, because if the Seong family finds it before we do, we lose everything. Mira stands, her face etched with concern. There's a storage facility on the edge of town. Your sister rented a unit there under a false name. I have the key. She reaches into her apron pocket and produces a small brass key. Number 17. She said you'd know what to do with whatever you found there. Kasima takes the key, and as her fingers close around the cold metal, she feels her sister's presence so strongly it's almost like she's standing right behind her, whispering encouragement. Outside, the sky has clouded over. The first drops of rain begin to fall as they rush to the car, and somewhere in Seoul, in Kasima's small apartment, strangers are tearing through her life looking for secrets she's only now beginning to understand exist. The storage facility sits at the edge of Jungpyeong like a forgotten secret, a collection of orange metal units surrounded by chain-link fence and overgrown weeds. Rain falls steadily now, drumming against the car roof as Lucien parks in front of Unit 17. The number hangs slightly crooked on the door, rust bleeding down from the screws. Kasima clutches the brass key so tightly it leaves an imprint on her palm. Milo sleeps in his car seat, exhausted from the day's chaos, his small chest rising and falling with peaceful oblivion. She envies him that peace, the luxury of not knowing how fragile safety really is. Wait, Lucian says as she reaches for the door handle. Let me check first. Check for what? For anything that shouldn't be here. He's already out of the car, moving with that careful awareness she's noticed before. He circles the storage unit, examining the lock, the hinges, the ground for footprints in the mud. Kasima gets out anyway, rain immediately soaking through her jacket. My sister left this for me, not you. Lucian turns, rain dripping from his hair, and she sees something flash across his face. Hurt, maybe, or frustration. I'm not trying to take this from you. I'm trying to keep you alive long enough to understand what it means. Then stop treating me like I'm fragile, she snaps. Stop acting like you're the only one who knows how dangerous this is. My sister died. I know exactly what the stakes are. The words hang between them, sharp and painful. Lucian's jaw clenches. Your sister died because she trusted the wrong people, because she thought she could handle things alone. I won't watch you make the same mistake. And what about you? Kasima demands, stepping closer despite the rain, despite everything. What mistake did your brother make? You keep talking about my sister like she was some naive outsider who got in over her head. But what about him? He was born into this world. He knew the rules. So why is he dead? Lucian's expression hardens. Because I failed him. Because I was too busy trying to protect the family name to see that he needed protection from the family itself. Because I chose wrong, and he paid the price. Is that what you want to hear? The rawness in his voice catches her off guard. For a moment, standing in the rain outside this rusted storage unit, they're just two people carrying the same weight of survivor's guilt. The same terrible question. Why them and not us? Kasima pushes the key into the lock. It turns with a grinding sound, and the door swings open on protesting hinges. Inside, The unit is small and dim, illuminated only by the gray light filtering through the rain. There are 3 cardboard boxes stacked against the back wall, each one labeled with dates in her sister's handwriting. Casima's hands shake as she opens the first box. Documents. Dozens of them. Bank statements, property records, photographs of people she doesn't recognize meeting in restaurants, parking lots, office buildings. There are spreadsheets tracking money moving through shell companies, ledgers written in cramped handwriting, email printouts discussing transactions that use coded language but clearly mean something illegal. This is evidence, Lucian says quietly, kneeling beside her. This is everything my brother collected before he tried to leave. Proof of the family business operations. Names, dates, amounts. Enough to bring down both families if it reached the right authorities. Casima opens the second box. More of the same, but also something else. A smaller envelope addressed simply, "To whoever finds this." Her sister's handwriting again. She opens it with trembling fingers. Inside is a letter, 2 pages written in English on both sides. Casima, if you're reading this, then everything went wrong. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you what we were doing. I'm sorry I put Milo in danger by even existing in this world. But I need you to understand. We tried. We tried so hard to get out the right way. Han Ji-sung's brother collected this evidence over 2 years. He was going to turn it over to international authorities who could prosecute without being corrupted by local influence. We were going to disappear into witness protection, raise Milo somewhere safe. We had tickets, new passports, a plan. But someone found out. Someone we trusted betrayed us. I don't know who yet. We're still trying to figure it out. But by the time you read this, it won't matter anymore. Please protect Milo. Please don't trust anyone completely, not even people who seem like they want to help. The Han family has spent generations building power through relationships and obligations. Everyone owes someone. Everyone has something to lose. I loved you so much, little sister. I'm sorry I couldn't come home. Casima reads the letter 3 times, tears mixing with rain on her face, and each time the words hit harder. Don't trust anyone completely. The warning echoes in her mind as she looks at Lucian, who's reading through documents with an expression growing darker by the second. Your brother never told you about any of this? She asks, her voice hollow. No. Lucian's hand still on a particular page, a ledger entry with his own name listed as a transaction witness. He kept me completely in the dark, probably because he knew I'd try to stop him. Or because he didn't trust you, Casima says, before she can stop herself. The words land like a slap. Lucian looks up, and the hurt in his eyes is so genuine it makes her regret speaking. But she doesn't take it back. Can't take it back. Because her sister's warning is blazing in her mind. Don't trust anyone completely. You think I had something to do with their deaths, Lucian says slowly, standing. That's what you're really saying. I think you showed up in that courtroom with perfect timing and perfect documentation, Casima replies, standing to face him. I think you know things you're not telling me. I think you've been controlling this situation from the moment you walked into my life. I've been trying to protect you. By keeping me in the dark? By making decisions without asking me? That's not protection, Lucian. That's control. And right now, I don't know if you're trying to help me, or if you're just cleaning up a mess your family made. The silence that follows is devastating. Rain hammers against the metal roof. Milo starts to cry in the car, his wails cutting through the tension. Casima moves past Lucian to get to her baby, but he catches her arm gently. I know you have no reason to trust me. I know how this looks, but I swear on my brother's memory, I am not your enemy. She pulls away. Then prove it. Stop hiding things. Stop making choices for me. Let me decide what to do with this evidence, with this information, with my own life. Even if your choices put Milo in more danger, the question hangs between them like a blade. Casima wants to scream that her choices would never endanger Milo, but the doubt creeps in. What does she really know about navigating this world? What experience does she have with families who treat human lives like chess pieces? She takes the boxes to the car without answering. Lucian helps her, and they work in tense silence, loading evidence that could destroy the very families that want to destroy her. As they drive back toward Seoul, Casima's phone buzzes. A message from an unknown number. The storage unit in Jungpyeong. We know you found it. We know what's inside. Give us the documents, or the hearing next week will be the least of your problems. She shows Lucian the message. His face goes pale, and she knows exactly what he's thinking. Someone followed them. Someone knew they'd come here. Someone has been watching every move they've made. Who else knew about the storage unit? Cosima demands. Only Mira, Lucian says. Unless... He stops himself. Unless what? His expression is agonized. Unless my brother told someone else. Someone he trusted who betrayed him. The implication settles over them like ice. The person who got her sister and his brother eliminated might still be out there. Still watching. Still waiting. The Soule family court building looms against an overcast sky like a monument to judgment itself. Cosima stands on the steps, clutching Milo against her chest, feeling the weight of eyes she cannot see. The boxes from Jungpyeong are hidden in a safety deposit box across the city. The only decision she and Lucian agreed on during the tense, silent drive back to Seoul 3 days ago. They haven't spoken since. Not really. Just clipped exchanges about Milo's schedule, about court preparations, about logistics that require words but no trust. Mr. Kang meets her at the entrance, his face grave. They've submitted additional evidence, he says quietly, guiding her through the metal detectors. Documents suggesting emotional instability. Testimony from anonymous sources claiming erratic behavior. Anonymous? Cosima's voice is tight. How is that legal? In preliminary custody hearings, the standards are different. The judge has broad discretion. Mr. Kang adjusts his glasses. A nervous habit she's learned means he's worried. Miss Hart, I need to be honest with you. This hearing isn't going well before it's even started. Inside the courtroom, the atmosphere is suffocating. The same judge from before sits elevated behind her bench, face impassive. But this time, there are others present. A court-appointed child welfare specialist, a psychiatric evaluator Cosima has never met, and on the opposite side of the room, 3 lawyers in expensive suits flanking a man in his 60s who radiates authority like heat. That's Seong Dae-jung, Mr. Kang whispers, head of the Seong family. Cosima's blood runs cold. She's seen his photo in the documents from the storage unit, signature after signature authorizing transactions that the ledgers made clear were anything but legitimate. And now he sits here, in a court of law, presenting himself as a concerned citizen worried about a child's welfare. Lucian enters just as the proceedings begin. He sits 2 rows behind Cosima, close enough that she can feel his presence like static electricity, but far enough that the distance between them is a physical statement. She wants to turn around. Wants to ask if he's seen the additional evidence, wants to know if he has any idea how to fight this. But her sister's words echo relentlessly. Don't trust anyone completely. The judge calls the hearing to order. The Seong family's lead attorney stands, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and sharper words. Your Honor, we are here today because Miss Cosima Hart, despite her admirable intentions, is demonstrably unfit to provide stable guardianship for the minor child. Our evidence will show a pattern of emotional instability, poor judgment, and circumstances that place the child at ongoing risk. The attorney produces documents, the manipulated photos from the school, statements from concerned colleagues Cosima has never heard of, and most devastating of all, excerpts from her sister's notebook, presented completely out of context. These writings, the attorney continues, holding up photocopies, show that Miss Hart's sister was involved in collecting sensitive information about respected Korean families. This obsessive behavior, this paranoia, appears to run in the family. Miss Hart herself has been observed making unfounded accusations, conducting unauthorized investigations, and exhibiting signs of persecution delusions. That's not true, Cosima says, half rising from her seat. Mr. Kang pulls her back down. Please let me handle this, he whispers urgently. But the assault continues. The psychiatric evaluator, someone Cosima realizes with horror was probably paid by the Seong family, testifies that her presentation during assessment showed signs of anxiety disorder and possible paranoid ideation. I never met with any evaluator, Cosima protests to Mr. Kang. That's not possible, he says, flipping through papers frantically. It says here you attended a session last Thursday. I was at school last Thursday. All day. I have witnesses. But even as she says it, she realizes what happened. Someone forged her attendance, created a false record, the scope of the conspiracy stealing her breath. The judge asks questions, and each one feels weighted against her. Miss Hart, Is it true you've taken extended leave from your employment? I was placed on leave, not by choice. Is it true you've been conducting private investigations into the child's paternal family? I've been trying to understand. Yes or no, please. Yes, but is it true you removed documents from a storage facility in Jungpyeong without proper legal authorization? Mr. Kang stands quickly. Objection, Your Honor. Those were personal effects left by Miss Hart's deceased sister. Personal effects that allegedly contain confidential business information. The Seong attorney counters smoothly. Information that Miss Hart may be using for purposes of extortion or blackmail. The courtroom spins. Cosima holds Milo tighter, and he whimpers against her shoulder, sensing her distress. She wants to scream that she's being framed, that every accusation is a calculated lie, but she can see the judge's expression shifting, doubt creeping in like fog. Lucian finally stands. Your Honor, may I address the court? Mr. Han, you are here as a co-guardian, not as legal counsel. Unless you have something directly relevant. I have evidence that the Seong family's petition is being made in bad faith, Lucian says, his voice steady despite the tension radiating from his shoulders. Evidence that their concern for the child's welfare is a pretext for other motives. The judge's eyes narrow. That's a serious accusation, Mr. Han. I'm prepared to substantiate it. Lucian produces a folder from his briefcase. These are financial records showing that members of the Seong family have been attempting to access trust funds established for the child by his late father. Funds they cannot access without custodial control. A murmur runs through the courtroom. Seong Dae-jung's expression remains carefully neutral, but Cosima sees his attorney lean over, whispering urgently in his ear. Your Honor, the Seong attorney says quickly, these alleged financial records are inadmissible hearsay. They're certified bank documents. Lucian interrupts, with signatures and dates, happy to provide authentication. The judge holds up a hand. I'll review these documents in chambers. This hearing is recessed for 30 minutes. The gavel falls like a gunshot. In the hallway, Cosima confronts Lucian immediately. You had those documents all along? Why didn't you tell me? Because I wasn't certain they'd be admissible until I consulted with... He stops himself. With who? Cosima demands. Who have you been consulting with while keeping me in the dark? With people who can actually help, Lucian says, frustration bleeding through his controlled facade. You want to do everything yourself, make every decision, but you don't understand how this world works. Sometimes protection means keeping information compartmentalized. Compartmentalized? Cosima's voice rises. I'm not one of your business assets, Lucian. This is my life. Milo's life. You can't just... Her phone buzzes. Another message from the unknown number. Court documents are just the beginning. Give us what we want, or the next hearing will determine if you ever see that child again. You have until tonight. Attached is a photo that makes her knees weak. It's Milo's daycare, the one he'll return to after her leave ends. And in the image, someone has drawn a red circle around the entrance. She shows Lucian the phone with shaking hands. His face goes pale, then hardens into something dangerous. They're threatening direct action, he says quietly. This has escalated beyond legal maneuvering. When the hearing reconvenes, the judge's expression is unreadable. She addresses the courtroom with careful formality. Having reviewed the submitted evidence, I find that there are significant questions regarding the stability of the current guardianship arrangement. While I am not prepared to remove the child from Miss Hart's care at this time, I am ordering a comprehensive psychological evaluation, home inspection, and 30-day review period. 30 days. A month of having her life dissected, her fitness questioned, her every move monitored. And at the end, another hearing where they'll try again to take Milo away. Furthermore, the judge continues, during this review period, Mr. Han Ji-sung's co-guardianship status will remain active with expanded oversight responsibilities. Miss Hart, you are to cooperate fully with all evaluations and inspections. The gavel falls again. Final. Unappealable. Outside, rain has started again. Cosima stands on the courthouse steps, holding Milo, feeling the city close around her like a fist. She doesn't know if she just won or lost. Doesn't know if the 30 days are a reprieve or just a slower form of defeat. Lucian approaches carefully, umbrella in hand. We need to talk about protection. About moving you somewhere safer. I need you to leave, Cosima says, her voice flat with exhaustion. Right now. I need to think. I need to be alone with my son. Kasima, please. She doesn't look at him. Can't look at him. Just go. She walks into the rain without an umbrella, and Lucian doesn't follow. 3 weeks pass like walking through water. Every day brings new inspections, new evaluations, new strangers entering Kasima's home with clipboards and judgment in their eyes. They measure the temperature of Milo's bathwater, count the number of books on his shelf, photograph the safety locks on her cabinets. They ask the same questions in different ways. Do you feel overwhelmed? Have you considered that the child might be better off in a more traditional family structure? How do you respond to stress? Kasima answers with carefully rehearsed calm while screaming inside. The psychological evaluation is the worst. 3 sessions with Dr. Yoon, a woman who smiles without warmth and takes notes on everything. The way Kasima crosses her legs, how long she pauses before answering, the fact that she tears up when talking about her sister. Every natural human emotion becomes potential evidence of instability. Tell me about your support system, Dr. Yoon says during the final session. I have friends, colleagues from school. The lie tastes bitter. Most of her colleagues stopped calling after she went on leave. Afraid of association, probably. Afraid of whatever scandal they think she's involved in. What about family? The co-guardian, Mr. Han? Kasima's hands tighten on her knees. We're working together for Milo's benefit. Another lie. She and Lucian have barely spoken since the courthouse. He's maintained his required oversight. Weekly check-ins conducted through his assistant. Reports filed with the court about Milo's health and welfare. But the distance between them has calcified into something impenetrable. That night, after putting Milo to bed, Kasima sits at her kitchen table surrounded by the documents from Jungpyeong. She's been going through them methodically, trying to understand the full scope of what her sister and Lucian's brother had uncovered. The evidence is damning. Years of transactions that blur the line between legitimate business and something far darker. Names of officials, dates of payments, ledgers that tell stories of influence purchased and silence bought. And buried in the third box, something she almost missed. A USB drive taped to the inside of a folder, labeled simply, Insurance. She plugs it into her laptop with trembling hands. The files that appear make her breath catch. Audio recordings. Dozens of them. Conversations between members of both families discussing operations that would destroy them if made public. One file is dated 3 days before the accident. She clicks it. Her sister's voice fills the apartment, and Kasima has to press her hand over her mouth to keep from sobbing. Alive. Real. Speaking with urgency to someone on the other end of a phone call. I know it's risky, but we don't have another choice. If we don't move now, we'll never get another chance. The documents are secured. The recordings are backed up. Once we're safe, we send everything to the International Prosecutor's Office. They can't touch us there. A male voice responds. Lucian's brother, she assumes. What about Kasima? Have you told her anything? No, and I won't. The less she knows, the safer she is. If anything happens to us, she'll take care of Milo. That's all that matters. The recording ends. Kasima sits in silence, tears streaming down her face, understanding with terrible clarity what her sister had done. She'd kept Kasima in the dark deliberately, not because she didn't trust her, but because she loved her too much to make her a target. Her phone rings. Lucian's name appears on the screen. She almost doesn't answer, but something makes her pick up. I need to see you, he says without preamble. Tonight. It's important. Lucian, I can't. Please. The word cracks with something raw. There's something you need to know before the final hearing tomorrow. He arrives 30 minutes later, looking like he hasn't slept in days. His suit is rumpled, his hair disheveled, and there's a desperation in his eyes that frightens her. I found out who betrayed them, he says the moment she opens the door. Who told the Seong family about the escape plan? Kasima's heart stops. Who? My father's former attorney, Kim Jae-won. He was on my brother's legal team, someone we all trusted. The Seong family offered him a partnership in their firm if he provided information about my brother's activities. He's the one who revealed the escape timeline, who told them about the storage unit, who made sure they were on that road at exactly the right time. The implications crash over Kasima like a wave. Do you have proof? Lucian pulls out his phone, shows her a series of text messages recovered from backed-up servers. Messages between attorney Kim and Seong family representatives, discussing payment for consulting services rendered. Discussing handling the problem of 2 people who knew too much. I'm giving this to the prosecutor tomorrow, Lucian says. Not the court. The actual criminal prosecutor. This goes beyond custody hearings. This is conspiracy. This is... He can't finish the sentence. Why are you telling me this? Cosima asks quietly. Why now? Because tomorrow, the judge will make her final decision about Milo's custody, and I need you to know that whatever happens, whatever I have to do to keep him safe, it's not about control. It's not about winning. His voice breaks. It's about making sure my brother's son doesn't pay the price for our family's sins. Cosima looks at him, really looks at him, and sees past the carefully constructed facade to the grief underneath. He's been carrying the same weight she has, the same guilt, the same terrible knowledge that people they loved died trying to escape a world neither of them chose. The folder you gave me at the courthouse, she says slowly. The financial records about the trust funds. Those documents incriminate your family too, don't they? Not just the Seongs. Lucian's silence is answer enough. If the court admits them as evidence, Cosima continues, if this becomes a criminal investigation, you'll lose everything. Your position in the family business, your reputation, possibly your freedom. Yes. Then why did you submit them? He meets her eyes. Because Milo matters more than any of that. Because you matter more than protecting a legacy built on lies. The words hang in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither can fully articulate. Cosima thinks about her sister's letter, about the warning not to trust anyone completely, but she also thinks about the recordings, about two people who tried to save each other and failed, and about the child sleeping in the next room who deserves better than the war being fought over his future. I have something too, she says quietly. Audio recordings. My sister made them. They're worse than the documents. They're voices, confessions, evidence that can't be disputed. Lucian closes his eyes. Where are they? Here, on a USB drive. She makes a decision that feels like jumping off a cliff. I was going to turn them in myself, but I think we need to do it together. Present a unified case. Show the court that we're both willing to burn it all down if that's what it takes to protect him. They'll come after you, Lucian warns. Both families. They'll use every resource they have to destroy your credibility, your career, your life. They're already doing that. Cosima's voice is steady despite the fear coursing through her veins. At least this way. I'm fighting back on my own terms. They spend the night organizing everything. Documents, recordings, timeline of events. Building a case that will shatter two powerful families and probably destroy them both in the process. But as dawn breaks over Seoul, Cosima feels something she hasn't felt in months. Certainty. The final hearing is scheduled for 9 a.m. At 8:30, Cosima and Lucian walk into the prosecutor's office together and lay everything on the table. The prosecutor, a stern woman in her 50s who's built her career on taking down corruption, listens with growing intensity. This is enough for multiple indictments, she says finally. But you understand that once this becomes a criminal investigation, the custody case becomes secondary. The court will likely place the child in temporary protective services until... No, Cosima's voice is firm. I've submitted to every evaluation, passed every inspection, proven my fitness. I want custody finalized today. Then you can investigate whatever you need to investigate. The prosecutor looks at Lucian. And you're prepared to testify against your own family? Yes. At 9 a.m., they enter the courtroom together. The judge reads her decision with careful formality. Based on the comprehensive evaluations conducted over the past 30 days, I find that Miss Cosima Hart has demonstrated consistent, appropriate care for the minor child. Her fitness as a guardian is established. Sole legal custody is hereby granted. The words wash over Cosima like absolution. Milo is hers. Legally, officially, permanently hers. But the judge continues. However, I'm remanding several matters raised during these proceedings to the prosecutor's office for criminal investigation. Mr. Han, you are ordered to remain available for questioning. And, Miss Hart, the judge's expression softens slightly. I encourage you to seek counseling support. You've been through an ordeal no one should face alone. Outside the courthouse, reporters are already gathering. Someone leaked the prosecutor's involvement. Cosima watches Lucian field questions with practiced evasion and realizes this is just the beginning of his unraveling. He finds her in the parking lot. I'm going to have to step away for a while, deal with what's coming. But I want you to know, I meant what I said. Milo comes first. Always. I know, Cosima says quietly. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small object, the Han family pendant, the one that appeared mysteriously in her apartment months ago. This was my brother's. He would have wanted Milo to have it, when he's old enough to understand. Cosima takes it, feeling the weight of history and pain it carries. Thank you. For everything. For choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. Lucian's smile is sad. That's what family should do, even when it costs everything. 6 months later, Cosima sits in a small office at Han Strategic Holdings, the legitimate division Lucian rebuilt from the ashes of his family's empire. She works as a compliance consultant now, helping ensure the company stays clean. It's strange, building something new with someone who was almost her enemy. Lucian is there too, though diminished in title and influence. He takes Milo to the park on Saturdays, teaches him Korean words Cosima can't pronounce, and maintains the careful distance of someone who knows he's still earning trust. They don't talk about the trials, the indictments, the family members who went to prison. They don't talk about the newspaper articles or the public disgrace. They focus on the small moments, Milo's first steps, his first words, the ordinary miracles of a child growing up safe and loved. One evening, Cosima finds the pendant again, tucked away with Milo's baby things. She reads the new engraving on the back one more time. Toda escolha tem custo. Every choice has a cost. Her sister paid hers. Lucian's brother paid his. And she and Lucian carry the weight of survival, the guilt of living when others didn't, the responsibility of making their sacrifices mean something. But when she looks at Milo, sleeping peacefully in his crib, she knows the cost was worth it. Every painful, impossible, devastating moment was worth this. A child safe, a future possible, and the slow, fragile building of something that might someday feel like redemption. When the noise fades and the final image dissolves, what stays with us is not the conflict, but the quiet weight of the choices made. Cosima walked a path no one prepared her for, carrying a responsibility she never asked to inherit. Yet every step she took shaped a future that could have easily slipped away. Ask yourself, if the safety of an innocent life depended on you, how far would you be willing to go? Would you hold on, even when the truth threatened to break everything you believed about yourself? In the end, this story is not about victory or defeat, but about the silent courage required to keep moving when no answer feels entirely right. Cosima's journey reminds us that love alone does not solve everything. It demands sacrifice, humility, and the willingness to stand alone in a room full of doubt. So consider this. If you had to choose between protecting someone you love and protecting your own peace, which road would you take? And could you live with the cost afterward? Perhaps that is the real lesson hidden between the lines. Life does not always reward the noble choice with clarity or comfort. Often, it gives us only the hope that, one day, our decisions will make sense. Until then, we do what we can, with the heart we have, trusting that even imperfect love can still change the course of a life.